This is the Regained Wellness Podcast with Jamie Logie, episode 88, The Health Benefits of Kefir. Hey guys, what's happening? Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Jamie Logie. I run regainedwellness.com, and this is the Regained Wellness Podcast. So thank you for joining me here today on the 88th episode, number 88, Eric Lindros. If you remember hockey back that far, or Pat Kane today. There's another good 88. And sports-wise, amazing Game 7 last night between Golden State and Cleveland. And just kind of, if whether you like LeBron James or not, the guy just sort of cements his legacy even further with what he did through this entire playoff round, including the final, a triple-double in the final. The guy, like, love him or hate him, the guy is a winner and a performer, and it was an amazing game. And Cleveland finally back on track with a championship after, what was it, 51 years, 52 years? Yeah. So today, talking about kefir, which is something you might not know of. You might have seen it. If you're using it, you're very aware of it. But it's in line with those healthy fermented foods that are good for gut health. And I talked about kombucha on a previous episode. You should listen to that one too, just to get a little more of an understanding on, why gut health is so important. And kefir is one of those things, along with other fermented foods like sauerkraut or kimchi, pickles, things like that, that really help to enhance the good gut bacteria. And just the understanding we have now of the link between good gut health and good overall health, and how that affects the immune system and how it's linked to brain function and all sorts of stuff. So I'm going to talk specifically about kefir today, and just to get you up to speed with it, what it is, how it's made, how it can benefit you, all that sort of stuff. So it might be something you'll be interested in trying. I can understand there is some confusion about it. It's not a regular type food product, but I'll give you a quick breakdown of it all here. So kefir is a pretty unique substance. So it's the best way to look at it is kind of a milk alternative product. It's a fermented product that contains milk, but most importantly, it contains what they call kefir grains. And these grains are very key to the whole process. And I'll kind of break it down how this all comes together and makes it really one of the best probiotic products out there. So kefir is something that has been popular across Northern and Eastern Europe, and it's been consumed in Russia, Central Asia for centuries. And the word kefir has existed in the Russian language as far back as just 1884, not super, super long. They never had a necessary name they gave to this thing they've been using forever, but it goes back a little while. So the history of it, traditional kefir, like as it is, a milk product, was made originally in skin bags that were hung near doorways. So the interesting thing, like in the town where there'd be people coming and going, anyone who would be passing by would knock the bag when they were passing through the doorway, which would help keep the mixture kind of working together. So the milk and the kefir grains, which we'll talk about in a second, so they would keep them continuously mixed instead of just sitting there. So it was just kind of like a tradition that anyone in the towns would just go by, give it a quick smack, and then on their way. So pretty good. I can't even get my neighbors to pick up my mail when I'm away. Better times then. So the kefir grains I just mentioned are pretty much the whole deal behind what makes kefir so beneficial. So these aren't really grains per se. They're basically they look like grains. I'll put a picture up on the show notes today. So if you go to regainedwellness.com/088, you'll see all the stuff I'm talking about here. So like I said, not really grains. They're a combination of lactic acid bacteria and yeast that are mixed with protein and fats and some sugars. And this kind of combination is what brings all the real health benefits and the probiotic content up. So basically, when they get all mixed together, they do look a little like grains. Kind of looks like cauliflower or a handful of sticky rice or something like that. So, or to me, they honestly look like burst stuffing from a stuffed animal. I'll put a picture up so you can see it. So fermentation process is really what makes the magic happen here. So it transforms ingredients into new and pretty amazing things. In the case of barley, fermentation process makes beer and makes you do shirtless keg stands at 2 in the morning. But with kefir, the fermentation process causes real changes in composition in the nutrients and other ingredients. So the milk, whether it's from cow, goat, or sheep, is used, and the lactose in the milk gets broken down mostly to lactic acid by the lactic acid bacteria. So everyone's familiar with lactic acid, but in the case of the milk fermentation process, that's what happens as well. The lactic acid is produced, and this gives it a bit of an acidic flavor to the kefir. So if you're going to be consuming it in its pure, raw, original form, touch of an acidic flavor. But then the rest of the flavor comes from a few other things that have kind of sprung to action during the fermentation process, like pyruvic acid, there's acetic acid, there's acetoin, which is kind of a buttery type of flavor. There's citric acid, acetaldehyde, and a bunch of amino acids from the protein breakdown. So what happens is the yeasts from the grains, they break down the lactose from the milk into ethanol and carbon dioxide. So this gives kefir its bubbly look and carbonated, basically taste. So if you've had it before, you realize it is a kind of a carbonated thing. It probably really throws you off. I remember the first time I had it, really, it's like a dairy soda. You don't expect something that's milk based to be carbonated and almost like fizzy, bubbly. But because of the fermentation, which is interesting, very little lactose remains. So after that whole process is done, even though it's considered kind of like a milk or alternative, it's actually a decent choice for those with lactose intolerance or any lactose problems because of the fermentation process. So something that can be a good probiotic gut, healthy choice for those who have issues with dairy. So here's how it's made now. So you start with a bunch of those kefir grains, and what you do is it's called a starter community, which sounds like some weird old folks development in Florida. But the starter community is going to be used and then added to whichever type of milk you like. So most of the commercial grade kefir, like stuff you're going to probably find in stores and shelves, is going to be made with cow's milk. So now what you're doing the traditional way, or artisanal if you're a hipster, is to add the kefir grains to milk in a covered, light-proof and acid-proof container. And that's going to be usually shaken twice a day to keep that mixture going. It's not filled to capacity, so that's going to allow for room for the expansion of it, as well as the carbon dioxide gas, which will cause the liquid to rise, so you don't fully fill these things up. After a period of fermentation, it's going to last around 24 hours. The grains are then removed from the liquid by just simple straining. And then these starter grains, like I said, are saved and used for a future fresh batch of kefir. So they kind of keep going, have multiple use. So it's very similar to, if you listen to my episode on kombucha, or if you're familiar with kombucha, it's very similar to the production. And in the process of kombucha, they use what they call the SCOBY, which stands for symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. And that thing is it's kind of like a white rubber puck, it looks like a pancake almost. And that thing is used multiple times and to create, future batches of kombucha. So it's kind of the same thing in the process of kefir. So the now fermented liquid is containing a whole bunch of new stuff. It contains live microflora. It's basically ready for consumption at this point, to be used in recipes, or it can go a second fermentation, which thickens the liquid further and makes it a little more sour though. So this is going to reduce the shelf life. It'll have a shelf life of around 30 days without refrigeration, but it is a little more limited in how long it's going to last. It's a living, product at this point. So The issue we want to look at is the idea behind kefir and the probiotic content, which is our interest here as far as all the health benefits that come from probiotics. So, kefir has been considered almost an ideal probiotic dairy product, and this is at the core of what makes it so beneficial. So, a quick I've discussed probiotics before, and you're probably aware of it. We've got quite a lot of good knowledge and information out there on probiotics, but a quick crash course. Probiotics are live bacteria, but a good kind of bacteria that is amazing for your health and primarily your digestive system. So your body is full of good and bad bacteria kind of composition that resides in your gut, in the small intestine. And probiotics help feed the good bacteria that lives down there in your gut. So besides providing good gut health, probiotics are important for a healthy immune system. So, basically your immune system, we think of your immune system as like an organ, or it's like another, actual thing that exists in your body, but it's a series of cells, like immune cells, that are kind of spread throughout your body. But 80% of these immune system cells reside on the other side of the gut, on the other side of the small intestine. So anything that gets through there is, whether it's toxins or negative foods you've consumed or whatever, they get kind of a first crack at the immune system. So the immune system's always having to spring into action all the time, and it can get worn down and beaten down over the course of years and years with exposure to all sorts of bad things like pollutants and toxic ingredients and just the whole deal. So anything that's beneficial for the gut is going to be beneficial for the immune system because they live kind of in harmony together. So that's the big advantage of probiotics, to keep that microbiome, they call it, in the gut healthy and vibrant. So kefir is pretty awesome because it contains several strains of the friendly bacteria that you really want for that optimal health. So you're probably familiar with some of these. Some of these names are pretty difficult to pronounce, so I'm going to try and stumble through them just so you can hear reference of them. So kefir will contain Lactobacillus cacao, I believe. There's Leuconostoc. There's Acetobacter species. There's the Streptococcus species. And then there's a bunch of beneficial yeasts, such as this one's hard, Saccharomyces kefir and Torullo kefir. And those you really don't find anywhere else. And that's what makes kefir such a unique product, because these amazing strains that exist in that friendly bacteria in the kefir. So that brings up the issue of yogurt. And is yogurt's considered a good, healthy gut choice food, and it's got probiotic content. But what's the breakdown? Is there a difference between the two things? Is one better than the other? Yogurt, like I said, it's also fermented. It's a dairy product similar to kefir, but has limited beneficial bacteria compared to kefir. Like, of those names I tried to just ramble off, those are the super beneficial bacteria. Yogurt is a little more limited in what it has. Yogurt still has benefits, including keeping the digestive tract clean. It will help feed some of the good bacteria that's in your gut. But kefir, here's the big difference. Kefir helps to colonize, or helps to spread and take over the gut, but in a good way. So whereas yogurt is, helping to feed it and, kind of assist the good bacteria that's in there, kefir is like a army sergeant that's going to take over the entire region in a good way. So it's going to, like they say, colonize it in more of a positive, healthy, beneficial gut bacteria way, and ideally outnumber the amount of bad bacteria, which is going to exist in your gut. There's no way to avoid it, but you just want to have that balance more in favor of the good gut bacteria. When it's the other way around, when you've, like I said, exposed to a lot of bad foods and pesticides or antibiotics, or you really alter the gut bacteria in favor of those bad, basically the bad bugs is the best way to put it. And that's where a lot of health problems are coming. And, immune system issues, and then a whole bunch of different diseases from, anything from certain cancers, heart diseases, the whole deal. When that and even cognitive and mental health issues, they're relating to poor gut health, because a lot of the neurotransmitters that are that the brain use, like serotonin and mood enhancing things, 2/3 of those are made actually in the gut. And when the gut microbiome is out of balance, it can really throw off a lot of things with like cognitive function and mental health. So yogurt's still going to be good. Kefir is just going to be that much better choice to better colonize and build the gut in that better balance. So on a side note, the thing with yogurt, you really want to avoid that fruit bottom, heavily sugared type varieties. They contain a ton of artificial ingredients and sweeteners, and so heavily sugared, it basically undoes any of the benefits, I would say, that's found in yogurt. When you find these little colorful yogurt packs, at that point, I think you're almost, going backwards in the exposure to all that sugar and artificial ingredients. So with yogurt, go with plain. Greek yogurt's really good, higher protein content. Go with the plain, add in your own stuff, add in your own berries and some nuts and whatever like that, just to kind of keep it as clean as possible. So one more thing, back to the kefir versus yogurt thing. Not only does the kefir help in colonizing the gut, the other big thing too is it contains more powerful strains of bacteria that are not found in yogurt. And so those ones I listed before that I was having trouble saying, those don't exist in yogurt, and those are the super beneficial types, and they just are in a more powerful content in kefir. So it's pretty much the hands down winner in those two, if they're going one-on-one here. So some more of the health benefits of kefir. So besides, how I said how it improves gut health and immune system, it's also been attributed to prolonging life due to the kefir grains, which have been connected with that, as well as enhancing the liver. Kefir has antibacterial properties. It can improve bone health. There's research saying it may inhibit tumor growth, and also that it may improve symptoms of asthma, which is very interesting. So pretty good stuff. The main thing, in my opinion, is that idea of promoting a healthy gut bacteria. And to break it down, if your gut is healthy, so are you. So that's the big take on kefir. So the way I like to use it is making my own kind of a hybrid cereal. I don't eat a lot of grains and things like that, but sometimes what I'll do is kind of make a mock version, and I'll use some oat bran. I'll use things like flax seeds, chia seeds. I'll throw in some berries, blackberries, blueberries, stuff, maybe some like raspberries. Then I'll pour the kefir on it. And it's kind of like a cereal. It's got that crunch, kind of that breakfast feel, if you like that sort of thing. But probably a much better alternative than, like Cookie Crisp or some stuff that I was dying for when I was a kid that I wasn't allowed. So this is a good morning kind of, like I said, breakfast version. It's good for those who are lactose intolerant. It's really easy to start including in your diet. And when you throw in these other things, like I said, the oat bran, the flax seeds, the chia seeds, berries, you start improving the fiber content, antioxidant content. It's a good little meal I sort of stumbled upon there. So that's it for kefir. Kind of wrap it up there. If you have more, if you're starting to want to learn more about, foods you want to be including in your diet, and why you need them and things you want to be avoiding, I would sign up for my email newsletter. And when you do that, I'll send you off this free ebook for everyone who signs up, and it gets you started on all those issues about like what you should be eating, what you should be avoiding. It's got some recipes, and you can get that by going to regainedwellness.com/guide. Just put in your email address, and magically that's sent off to you. So that's it for kefir. Hope you learned a little bit more about it. And if you had not been sure what it was, if you've been looking to include it, I would say it's a pretty good idea, because it's one of those classic food ingredients that's kind of making a bigger appearance now and providing a ton of health benefits. Okay, so that's it for me. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening. Bye.